Welcome to Accepting Your Messy State. This is part of the Breaking the Burnout Cycle episodes. And today we're going to address the self-critic, or as I like to call her, or him, or they, or whatever your self-critic looks like, the judge. And we can be, when we're in a state of burnouts, our own worst critic and our own worst judges. So often what I hear women and men both say is, I'm too weak, I'm not strong enough, how did I get here? If only I could have X, Y, Z, I just need to be able to push through. And there's a lot of really negative and doubting parts of ourselves that show up when we are in a state of burnout, and certainly we are hard on ourselves. Now, as we've already talked about, burnout there's lots of chemicals happening in the body. It's not just in our heads. So knowing that, part of what we want to do is learn how to befriend our judge. So the goal is not to throw the judge away, because that may never happen. The goal is to recognize, when am I judging myself? And how can I recognize it's happening? And with kindness and gentleness, set the judge aside. And also, let's remember that at some point, this judge and this self-critic has probably served a purpose in your life. So maybe, previously in your history as a child or a teen, that little voice inside your head perhaps helped you through some tough times. Maybe that voice said that, no, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe that kept you safe for some reason. And also we develop skills when we have these thoughts. And so, for example, perhaps you're super efficient. Perhaps you're like the go-to person to get everything done. Perhaps you're the person that creates a lot of connection and social harmony in your group. Perhaps you're the person that makes everyone feel secure and loved. And that's all lovely. And those are the parts you want to keep. And also there's parts that we now want to move away from. So the judge and the self-critic are parts that we can still hold on to. Being kind, social harmony, being efficient, being driven. Those are all great things. And then recognizing, where do we need to kind of step away from too much self-criticism and too much self-judgment. And so part of that process is learning how to accept where we're at and hold compassion for ourselves. So there's a pose from the embodiment toolkit called self-care pose. So what that looks like is one hand either shoulder here, and then one hand kind of around, so you're giving yourself a hug like this. Self-care pose, self-acceptance. So if you feel into the quality of this, and just notice for yourself, if we're thinking about self-care and self-acceptance, we're giving ourselves this lovely hug. What does this feel like for you? And what do you do in your body? Is this something you go, oh, I really have longed for this feeling? Or is it hard, and are you kind of stiff and like, oh, this is uncomfortable? Both are okay. The point is to notice, do I long for this kind of self-care? Do I accept that I need this kind of self-care? Can I accept myself in this? And, how familiar or unfamiliar, if this is really unfamiliar, it might feel uncomfortable to do this kind of pose. So the point is just to notice where you're at with it, and that'll be an indicator of, maybe I should do this every day. Give myself a little squeeze and go self-care, self-acceptance. Doesn't have to be long. Feel the quality of what it's like to have some care for yourself and some acceptance for yourself. So that's homework 1 in this series. This hug, a minute a day, before you get up in the morning or at the end of the day. Thinking about self-care and what it feels like. And know that it may be uncomfortable to be in this position for a while if self-care and self-acceptance is really far away from where you're at right now. Totally fine. It's a practice. You're not going to get it on day one. This is why we do this over time. And over time, you'll feel this quality gets easier to do. So for example, when I first started to do self-care, I really noticed that I clung to myself. Like I pushed really hard on this hand and my other hand under my rib because it felt like all my energy output was outwards and that I needed to like hold it in somehow. And now that I've been practicing this pose for a while and have been doing more self-care and self-acceptance, it feels more now just like a gentle squeeze, like a nice embrace versus like that desperate clinging that I had felt when I first started this pose. So that's an example of something that I felt when I started this pose. And it took a couple of months, I'd say even closer to 4 months, for me not to feel so rigid in the pose. So be mindful of that. Just notice where you're at. And so the other thing is noticing when we are judging ourselves. So that is words like, I need to just, or I should. And the tricky part is there's the noticing. And then what are you doing when you notice? So part of that, and I caught myself doing this many times, is like, I'm having a judgy thought, or, oh, I'm really criticizing myself. And then proceeding to beat yourself up for having the negative thought or having the judgy thought. So part of that is to notice. And then we've done some centering in the first sessions with you. So part of that will be, oh, here's the judgy thought. Just being like, oh, hey, judgy thought, there you are. Great time to center. Okay, how can I reframe this differently? I'm noticing I'm doing this, and therefore I'm going to say this out loud. So maybe it's, oh, I'm not good enough to do that. Oh, judgy thought. I'm not going to be perfect enough, but I'm going to give it a try and see what happens. Or something like that. I mean, write down, I would say, your second homework here is to write down your judgy thoughts and then look at a reframe for them so that as they arise, what are the most common thoughts? What's a reframe that you could do that would give you a positive spin? And to really not to judge yourself for having them. We're humans. We are self-critical beings. I mean, part of, like I say, nothing is all good, bad, right, wrong. Part of that self-criticism and the judgment sometimes spurs us on to accomplish other things. So it's what level are you judging yourself? And how do you move past it, or how do you spin it in a way that may still give you the drive or the push forward, but it's a little kinder to yourself? And it's a practice like anything else. It's like building a muscle. And so the other thing you can do is take some time to visualize your judgy self. So the Nagoski sisters in their book talk about the mad woman in the attic. I call my person the judge. And you can kind of take a moment, close your eyes. What does your judge or your critic look like? Your gremlin, your troll. And bring them out in front of you. So mine's, used to be quite a lot bigger. Now it's kind of this size. I'll just say, hey, troll. Hey, judge. Hey, mad woman in the attic. Wherever you're at. Give yourself permission to just be like, you are here and you are part of me. And we are humans and we're in this experience together. So I acknowledge that you're here. And I love that you've done things that have kept me safe. I love that you've helped me build superpowers. And now I'm going to set you to the side. You're still part of me. You're still in the room. You're just not in the driver's seat at this moment. And when I see you, cool, you're still there. You're an important part of me. And I'm choosing to think differently. I'm choosing a new thought. So we can hold our judgment trolls and just know that they're there. That's cool. We're humans. It's not about getting rid of parts of ourselves. It's about acknowledging them, accepting they're there, and making a new choice. And the last part, so the third part of your homework, so we've had self-care, we've had writing our thoughts, what are our negative thoughts, what's the reframe, saying hi to our troll, putting our troll to the side. And then this next part is around support and celebrations or gratitude. So sometimes, especially in burnout, we forget that we have people who are on our side and are on our team. And we kind of know that they're there, but maybe not always. In the moments of real fatigue and real desperation, sometimes our brains just cognitively can't think, who can I call? Who can I just say, like, oh, I'm just feeling terrible today, or I just need somebody to listen to me. So making a list of the people you know you can count on, that you can call, even if it's just like, I just want to call and cry, or actually, could you help me with this thing today? Right, make a list and have that list accessible so that when you're in your dark moments, you know that these are the people you can rely on and how they are supportive to you. So that's also a piece, that's part of that gratitude and that celebration. How are these people meaningful for you? And how are they supportive to you? So you've got your list. You can use it anytime you need. And the second part is to remember the celebrations in our life. So there's lots of research on gratitude. Gratitude feels sometimes like one of those meme words that you see on Instagram. And part of, so celebrations is sometimes an easier word. What was a win for you today? And it doesn't have to be big things. Sometimes it's, I got up and showered today. Sometimes it's, I made myself a meal today. It wasn't, whatever was in the pantry that I didn't have to cook. So they can be really basic life wins. And over time, those wins will get bigger, but you also start to recognize them and look forward to what's the win today. Maybe it was, I was kinder to myself today. My troll didn't come out as much. So whatever it is, writing down beginning, middle, end of day, whatever works for you, one thing, even just one thing. So you've got your list of supportive people and you've got your celebration for the day. And those are things that are going to help you reframe where you're at in your burnout cycle so that you can start to look towards a more positive future as you're getting yourself through burnout. So those are my recommendations to you today. So again, 3 things: self-care, a minute a day, your list of judgy thoughts, how are you going to reframe them, pick the top 3, looking at your troll, setting your troll aside, and then your supportive people, who's in your corner and how, and then your one win each day, as big or small as you want to make it, but make it be something real. And that's it for today. And in our third session, we're going to have Giulia do a beautiful meditation on body acceptance.